briefly, I introduced myself already. Just joined the company called Marbles, and really what it does, it's another recruitment agency in essence. So all sorts of different recruitments being done. Happy to help, if you need any help. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm having a look on the big picture on software jobs in Finland at the moment, and then what does the software job market look like in the near future. So just looking at the sort of the big picture, there's a lot of small companies in Finland employing less than 10 employees in the software related fields. And then looking at the bigger companies, the number tends to stay a little bit similar, even though the fields are getting bigger and bigger year on year because of all the company mergers and consolidations. And then looking at the different regions in Finland, it's easy to notice that more than half of the software-related jobs are in the Helsinki region in Uusimaa, and really thinking about, okay, if you consider landing a job in software in Finland, there's no other way to look, even though I must emphasize that really it's all the university cities that provide software-related education degrees. They do have quite healthy, but a lot smaller ecosystems. And really kind of like Mikkeli region, it's a lot smaller in population as well, but here's an example of 210 software professionals. A couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, that was located in that region. So it's a completely different story to say 30,000 people working in software in the Helsinki region. Okay, looking at the near future, it's good to sort of look at the big picture, kind of like the different factors affecting the future. So pestle analysis is quite a useful one. And just a quick glance through it. This is based on the Ministry of Employment material about a year ago. So about the political factors, looking at the global scene, the global players coming especially from the US, of course, affect a great deal. Over the past couple of years, the protectionism has been an issue as well, something that we hadn't seen that much before that for a period of time. Then there's the economic elements, open markets, affecting most definitely our field. There's more and more of outsourcing, and partly related to that being the lack of skilled employees, as there's been a lot of talk, especially here in Finland, about that topic. The technological scene is obvious that things are progressing super quick in tech, and everything's becoming digital if it hasn't been yet, and it's still curious. I think it was last year, half of all the SMEs basically don't yet have sort of a digital mark, or kind of like digital tools providing a key element of their business. About the social elements, Finland's definitely facing the elderly population challenge in the coming decades, and at the same time, urbanization is continuing very quickly, rapidly, and there's a sort of a double vacuum elements in place. There's the Helsinki region growing quickly, kind of like because of folks moving from abroad to Helsinki region, but then also from within the country, people are moving to Helsinki region. But also then the university cities then are growing sort of from within the region. So there's sort of a double dynamic in place with regards to that one. Then, of course, the polarization of society is a challenge. I think Finland's pretty an equal place still, but the gap between the haves and have-nots is growing for sure. And something always to pay pay attention to with regards to all things digital and the cloud surface, cloud platforms, and etc. Where does the energy come from, and also what's the need for electricity, and looking forward to many advancements in that sector as well. There's then the legislative perspective as well to be considered. So there's the EU and Finland elements in place. The data structures, ownerships, and the rights of the citizens, and to privacy. So something to bear in mind when looking into the future. Okay, just briefly then, a few slides on our software development before I finish in the near future Finland. Okay, currently the pretty much binary job market. There's the organizations able to hire in English and going more and more, but yet still there are certain fields where Finnish is pretty much required, or Swedish for that matter. So the public and health sectors, the SMEs I mentioned, the rural side of Finland. I'm talking in 2 weeks' time to the international students of Seinäjoki Applied School of University, and it's something completely different in that context to land a role over there. English is indeed becoming more and more prevalent. I think we are all aware of that, and that's going to be happening even more so in the future. This talk, especially in Finland, of a lack of software developers, it's really all about lack of, do it all, know it all, settle on mediocre salary type of a lack of developers. And I think, well, I'll touch on the salary aspect as well in a little while, but it's a key element that when we're looking into the future, we definitely need more women, because the field is still very much sort of male focused in terms of who actually do the coding and etc. But also internationals in Finland, that's for sure. And really, I think the winning organizations are going to be the ones that say no to the sort of this cynical, no juniors, we require all people be full stack, whatever that then means, but rather go with the, you're most welcome. We have excellent coaching and training opportunities and inclusion of junior developers who are motivated to learn, and etc. And of course, when you sort of provide this type of an work environment, it means also that once people learn new skills, the junior salary gets an add-on and etc. To make sure that people are committed and engaged with the company, and of course all the other wonderful elements of working in a supportive and encouraging and inclusive environment. Another dimension is then the salary, and then with regards to the salary in Finland, the emerging element is that the freelancing or the gig economy has really started to pick up pace over the past decade, or more like 4-5 years, and Finland's a little bit late in comparison to some of the other European countries, and there really is a bit of a pay gap in between. Of course, when you pay attention to all the sort of costs and such, like when one is charging the sort of all-inclusive fees, say, which add up to 12 to 14 with the said rates over here. There are costs that need to be covered, but still, post-tax, we are talking about a higher rate than in employment. And I believe in the future this gap will grow, especially with regards to the post-tax, because there's the element of corporate tax being fairly flat, whereas then the personal tax, being very progressive here in Finland. Of course, it needs to be emphasized that, of course, freelancers and as such, like they do require many years of experience, but that's something definitely to consider, and for the individuals, but at the same time a phenomenon that I expect to see more in place in Finland. And then the question of where the work's done. Is it remote? There's, the COVID times have made it pretty clear that a lot of organizations that say that yes, we can work from homes or wherever, even though just previously there was an adamant statement that there's absolutely no way that people can work from home. All of a sudden, it's been possible, and then the question of thinking about doing remote work extensively in Finland. I think a lot of companies do then start considering, nearshoring or offshoring, and but at the same time, I don't see on-site, kind of like a rigid on-site, being any type of answer for the companies outside certain, say, security or issues or such like. And I'm sort of thinking that considering these two elements, rigid on-site, not really, or flat out remote, not necessarily, it becomes sort of an element that can also create a bit of a, put certain roles perhaps in jeopardy of being offshoring. I see sort of the on-site, at least on paper, but remote in practice to be sort of the answer quite a lot of the times, and really meaning that perhaps then looking at the urbanization trend that we touched upon briefly, that it might be decreased a little bit when people are able to say, choose places to stay at a little bit further away from Helsinki, but still to be within sort of a reasonable commute distance. So, for example, 2 hours, 3 hours from Helsinki, you can take the early morning train to come to Helsinki for the day, and then head back to wherever. And that might be the case, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I suppose, when thinking about, what's certain, I, from a recruiter's point of view, see that the tech-agnostics, will continue to do well. So, being open and learning new skills and new frameworks and such, kind of like on a sort of a natural way of just doing the work, to be constantly learning alongside, even though, of course, React's, very, very big at the moment, and etc. There's a lot of talk about low code, how that is, affecting the future. But I suppose at the moment, at least, the call for high quality user experience and sort of the trendier stuff, the experiences, to be provided for the people. I think that, as long as that type of a trend is in place, that can work as a bit of an antidote to the stricter low code implementations. But we'll see. Many thanks. Just a quick ad to finish off with. There's a podcast called Digital Leader Talks that I touch upon various topics that might be of interest to you. Just today out the session with Milja Köpsi, and we talked about why women are needed in software. I suppose we all know the reason, but if you like to hear a bit of that discussion, do join in. Many thanks. Was I on time? I suppose, to some extent.
Yeah, perfectly on time, and thanks for the overview. I think the future is going to be really interesting in Finland, and I actually moved back to Finland. I was living in Austria for a couple of years, and then I found a house, but it's right at the countryside. So it's sort of I live middle of nowhere, but with really good quality. And I feel maybe for some people that's more of an option now after Corona than before Corona. What do you think of this?
Okay, can't hear you yet. The video is back.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So, no, it's fine. So, what do you think of the impact of the pandemic on the Finnish job market? Do you think it changes somehow on the IT sector, or what do you think?
Might be that Saku doesn't hear us.
Yeah, I think there's a technical problem. So
probably. I can comment on my side that listening to Saku's story, I myself moved to the not maybe rural area, but Paimio, which is near Turku, between Turku and Salo, because the pandemic showed that you can really work from any place. So I think it's one way to look at how the pandemic might affect the job market in total.
Yeah, let's see if Saku can get his setup working. Maybe we can get back to this questions later as well. We have something from YouTube. So do you see that changes the benefits wanted to provide it with office being places that developers see less? Anyone can take this one?
I think it's a balance, I think it's an open discussion between the employees and the employers, like what do people need in different times of their lives and in different job markets. So I don't think it's a one thing fits everybody, but it's a company thing that you need to discuss whether you want to have a fancy office in the middle of the Helsinki or whether you want to have benefits like proper working stations at homes. I guess I was stealing Mike's word, Mika's words.
Yeah, that's sort of like in the past there was this discussion that in some companies you get a bouncy castle or get this where at the balls and you go dive in the balls, like this funny stuff at the office or pool table or something fun. So you get that at the office, and then employer thinks they don't have to pay so much. But I mean, of course, now that you cannot get to the office, maybe that's changing a little bit. So you don't get so much value out of the office. So maybe the benefits have to change as well.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too early for really seeing what kind of new trends in terms of benefits will raise out of this crisis or out of this learning. Right now, we're just letting the dust settle. We're realizing that this is here to stay and we are going to be remote for who knows ever after. And that, of course, also brings new kind of challenges for companies to attract employees, for instance. So they need to be able to adapt also to people staying at home and to the mental well-being or the physical well-being and so on, and also the socializing aspect. But right now, I'm really looking forward. That's a great question that I've seen. There has been also some titles in the media that some big companies are going to kind of maybe reduce the pay of people who are fully working remotely or something like that, and that's in the States, and they're kind of really big companies. I don't think any of that kind of trend is ahead of us, but it's going to be interesting to see on how to attract skills or people to join companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you have different types of companies. Some are more able to adapt, and some are maybe want to go back to the office when it becomes possible. So it's that's one point. And then this. I think maybe in some cases you start asking yourself, do I need the office anymore? So should I keep paying the rent for the office because it's not likely very cheap, especially if you have a big and nice office, or do you want to keep it distributed and then maybe rent some space every once in a while? Maybe that's so. Let's see. There's comment. I think one big change that's going to happen to remote work is that it's harder to justify location-based salaries, especially when developers can look for jobs anywhere or everywhere. I think that's a good point. So, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's happening in the States already with some of the top tier companies, and of course that is well justified. So you don't need to pay the kind of the really hard salary to support someone living in the Bay Area San Francisco, for instance, people can't just move elsewhere. But it's going to be really tricky because if people are still supposed to be on site for a certain time, for instance, or if they need to be able to come to the office, you can't expect then to pay them less for them to move somewhere to a cheaper location and start commuting suddenly. So it's going to be, I guess there is going to be some kind of interesting period coming up to see on how things really will work out for both companies or employers and employees.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that. And it's really hard discussion because at the same time, if you do require people to come to the middles of centers of Helsinki or Turku or Tampere, then you need to provide them the means to do that. But on the other hand, is it the employer's responsibility to really care where the person is staying? It's like we can live wherever we want, just as long as we're able to do the work we're paid and hired to do.
Right. So let's see. We don't have more from YouTube, but it's of course we can get back to the topic once Saku gets back. We have some little technical issues, but maybe what do you think, Mika? Do you want to